Hey everyone, Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and welcome to the author journey. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you got a great book on the go. And today we're going to shake things up just a little bit, and we're going to take you down an interesting pathway that this author, our guest today, has taken to write his memoir. Kevin O'Connor is our guest today, and he wrote this memoir, Two Floors Above Grief, the memoir of two families in the unique place we called home. I love that picture. You imagine growing up in that house? How cool. We're going to find out a little bit more about what that was like from Kevin, an author of the Amazon bestseller, Two Floors Above Grief, has captivated readers in categories such as teens, young adults, parenting, family relationships, death and grief, and biographies and memoirs. Through his social media presence at The Grief Navigator, Kevin provides invaluable resources to those navigating their grief journey. Kevin has been a guest on numerous radio podcasts, and videos, and now on ours, discussing his experiences with writing, publishing, grief education, and his unique time growing up in an apartment above a funeral home in the 1950s through the 1970s. Kevin has a passion for storytelling and genealogical research and writing. He's an accomplished actor, performing in over 30 theater productions since the 1970s, and his educational career from 1973 to 2020, during which he served as an elementary teacher, a principal, a professor, and curriculum coordinator. That's a lot to unwrap. Lots of experience here. He authored content and provided training on LGBTQ advocacy and K-12 sexual health and family life. He now really resides in Fort Lauderdale with his husband, Leon. Their family includes 5 sons and 7 granddaughters. That's a busy life. So we're going to bring Kevin up, and he's going to tell us all about his writing journey and more. So, hello. That's a lot of history, my friend.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. And I appreciate, too, that we share the apostrophe in our name and all that represents in terms of our heritage, but also the challenges it presents when we go to put our name into anything that's online nowadays.
Computers, right?
Computers. And I'm always glad to see the apostrophe there, because oftentimes everywhere. I have to choose not to use it in my name because it just complicates some of the systems in which I get involved. But that's an aside, and we're probably we're connected in some way. I've walked O'Connell Street in Dublin a few times.
I have too. Yeah. My 40th birthday.
Oh, great.
That was yesterday.
It's always nice to have a compadre that shares the apostrophe. So.
Yes, and that Irish heritage. And how funny, we should also share, I'll share how we connected was through our Rotary Club. I was a regular Rotarian, or I guess you're once a Rotarian, always a Rotarian, but in my years in Fort Lauderdale, and recently was asked to be a guest speaker and met you. We talked about books and, I've just written a book. I said, you've got to come on to the author journey and tell us about your book. So I have started reading Two Floors Above Grief. It's fascinating. And of course, it reminds me of, I don't know, have you ever saw the series 6 Feet Under?
Yeah, oh yeah. I've watched it a few times.
every single. So tell us, what was it like growing up in a funeral home?
That's a
big question.
Big question. What was it like? Well, one of the things I put in the subtitle is I put the word unique, because although I have met other people who also were raised above or next to or within a funeral home, there's not a lot of us out there. And so I think it makes it rather unique. So what was it like? I mean, in my case, I never knew any different. When I was born in 1950, my parents had been married 11 years by that point and had been established themselves with my uncle in the funeral home business. And so when they brought me home, they brought me to the bedroom that I had for the next 20 some years. and that's right there on the book cover, and that's where I live. So I never really knew any different. And
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about growing up above a funeral home, I acknowledge that it's unique. I am grateful for the opportunity to have been able to share some of my stories, and know that I didn't know it at the time, but growing up in that atmosphere, that environment, led to so many of the things that I ended up doing in my life. I mean, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
choose, as I explain in the book, I didn't choose to follow in the profession. But I dare say that without my experiences in the funeral home, I may not have done what I've
All
done
the
with
things.
my education career, or my interest in theater, or other aspects of my life. And like I said, I had no way of predicting that when I lived there. But in retelling the story for myself and for readers, I've really realized, hey, my experiences really did make a difference.
That was kind of cool, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you look back at, sort of the experiences that you had from the time you were an infant, like all the way through, how old were you when you moved away?
Well, let's see. Officially, I'm not
Mm.
sure. Well, when I graduated from college in '72, I guess that's when I made the break, because I then moved to California. And even though my parents stayed in that house another 12
Mhm.
years and I made frequent visits,
Mhm.
I think when I was 22 is when I moved out of the house.
Mhm.
My bedroom stayed pretty much the same until
That's
they
so
moved out
funny.
in '84. But so I was connected there for physically for
Right.
the first 34 years of my life, through my living
Interesting.
there, and then in the years after college.
So there were two families. So you and your cousins grew up there. And
Yeah. Hmm.
so I can just like you look at that house and it's sort of like an Amityville kind of look, right?
Hmm.
Did you
Hmm.
find, was it spooky? Were there all kinds of neat like corners and nooks and crannies and creaky floors and
There was all that, but it was rarely that I put the word spooky to it, because as I look back and recollect, I didn't really know any different.
right.
Uh, I remember. I remember sometimes, especially after was older and was able to
Mhm.
go out with friends. And 16, when I started driving, and would come home and let myself in. And oftentimes I'd go through what we called the office door, and I would have to proceed through the funeral home a little bit, and then
Mhm.
up the stairs to go to the apartments. But I
Mhm.
remember those times, even though I had so used to it, thinking, "Oh God, there's a body in there. I gotta hurry! I gotta hurry up the stairs."
Right,
And
right.
even though I knew better,
Yeah.
the idea that there was a person there that was
Right.
deceased, and
Wow.
I do remember moving my feet a little quicker sometimes,
I
um,
bet.
and because it was dark and quiet, and
Yeah.
there was the smell of floral arrangements and things,
And
and
mixed with formaldehyde, right?
yeah, well, that smell, although I'm familiar with it,
Yeah.
that smell usually stayed in the basement. It really wasn't
Okay.
present in the first
As
floor at
much.
all,
Oh, good.
where the funeral home was.
There's a scene that you write about unzipping a body bag and helping your dad move a body. Like, how old were you when you started helping with those kinds of things? And do you have a recollection of the first time you saw a deceased individual?
I think one of the stories I tell in the book, and I don't know if that was my first time. Well, I remember seeing deceased individuals. We'll get back to the zipper part in a second. But
Mhm.
I remember seeing deceased individuals at a young age, because
Wow.
sometimes when my dad was providing childcare for my brother and I, sometimes he would we would be in the funeral home laying on
Coming
the
down.
floor and doing whatever toys he brought down for us, or and we were in the midst of whatever he was doing in his work, whether it was
Wow.
setting up the casket or arranging chairs. But there was the presence of a deceased person there as I did whatever I was doing.
Wow.
And that was when I was very young, and he wanted to keep us within his eyesight, so he had us come. But the zippered part, the zippered bag, I tell a few stories about that, but my recollection was probably teenagers, young teen, when Dad would start to have me go with him when there wasn't another adult to help him with this. And he usually needed assistance, or it was always good to have assistance when he went on what was called a death call. So my first recollection was going to, as I write in the book, was going to a house and going up to the second, would it be the second floor of the house, and him instructing me and of how to lift the body and how to get it onto the cart. We'd already carried the cart upstairs, but then how to get the body onto the cart and how to position the body. And so I have those memories in the book, and then the idea of zipping the bag and then taking that body on the cart back downstairs, and him instructing me about how to keep my balance and where to put my feet and how to get everything engineered, and then out the front door. And you try to do that. I recall that
respectfully.
Yes, the respectfully part, that during that part, it was customary, I think, observed at that time, but he would ask the family to find a place to sit or be away from this, unless they really, really wanted to see this part. He encouraged them to say, let me take care of this and I'll come back and talk to you later. But he would want the people, he would want to be able to, and I think it was probably, what if he dropped the card, or what if he he just wanted that to be out of the view of the family.
Yes.
It was a very discreet and respectful thing to do.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting. Like, the first thing I think is, oh my gosh, I'm keeping Kevin's name handy for if I'm writing. So I write mystery, crime fiction, right? So if I ever need like verification of, how do you like move a body from a home, or, to, like, what are the processes? So stay tuned, right? So,
yeah.
That triggers the question for me, like, how come you're not writing fiction? Like, what? I guess real life is sometimes stranger than fiction. What inspired you to write a memoir?
Thanks. Good question. Although in my head, I think, someday I want to write some fiction. Maybe not related to funeral homes, but what inspired me to write this book was I had these stories in my head for years, and lots of conversations I had with other friends and family, and stories to tell. But I'd also been, I don't know if you call it assigned, or just I became the keeper of a lot of letters that had been written, and cards. Postcards, letters, typed, handwritten, that had been exchanged between members of the family, but a lot of them were between me and other members of the family. So I had kept a lot of the things I had, and my parents had kept a lot of the letters that I had written to them. And so these letters, I just every time I moved with my family or anything, I just kept all this stuff in a box, in a crawl space or an attic. I thought someday. So once I retired from my career as an educator in 2020, I decided, well, now I have some time to do something. So, and even in the years prior to that, I said, I got to work. How do I do this? And so I just started organizing
that, right?
Yeah, I started organizing the letters. I thought, for years I taught elementary school, kindergarten first. Sequence is a big deal in those grades.
Yes.
So I just took what I'd learned and taught other people about putting things in order in a sequential fashion. So then I took those letters and I just organized them first by decades, then by years, then by months, then by days, and then I bought sleeves, plastic sleeves, put the letters into the sleeves, and then arranged them into notebooks. I have them. I still have them with. I have these 4 or 5 4-inch big notebooks, binders. Thank you,
Mm.
that I keep them in. So I had all this stuff, and then as I was doing this organizing and then moving and reviewing, I thought there are some stories here.
There's stories to tell.
Yeah, and I always fashioned myself writing something and getting it published. So in that, when I retired from education, I thought, okay, no more excuses. I have the time. So it was that process of reliving my family history through the letters that I thought, there's something here. And then I'd already watched 6 Feet Under. So I
love that series.
I said, we're not a carbon copy of 6 Feet Under. 6 Feet Under was fictional.
Yeah.
This was real. So that's what motivated me to write it and to seek out some help. I've always been a writer in my work and in even going back to elementary and high school. So, but how do I write a memoir? How do I do nonfiction? How do I do this? And then I sought help, and the book came together.
And where did you find your help?
Thanks for that question. I did some shopping around, and I found a group that I'm still very much involved in. The first group I got involved in was called Nonfiction Book School. It's operated well. The manager, the head, I guess, owner of that is a person named Stacy Ennis.
Okay, and I know. I have one of her books.
Oh, do you? Which one do you have?
I'd have to look.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So Stacy, I explored and met with Stacy, and then I became part of a cohort of 8 other people. This was starting in 2021. A cohort of other people, and we worked together on our She has a whole
excellent.
When you go onto our website at nonfiction writers, nonfiction. I have to look it up. Nonfiction Book School. .com, yeah. And then you get introduced to a whole approach that she uses. So I used her approach and worked with this cohort of people who were encouraging. In fact, it was through that cohort during one of our sessions that I got the title for the book.
I love that.
Yeah, so it was through that cohort that the title came up. So that was one source. And then as I worked on it very seriously for about 6 to 8 months with them, disciplining myself to write about 5 or 6 hours a day. And then the book came together. And then when I sought to get it published and do those steps, I worked with a group called My Word Publishing.
Awesome.
And My Word Publishing guides, Stacy does this too, but My Word Publishing is where I got, how do I get this printed? How do I get it laid out? How do I get the cover?
Nice.
How do I go? So that was part of the process that I used.
It really is building your team, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a very, even as solitary as writing is.
Yeah.
It's the team that makes a difference. And I'm still very involved with both those groups. We meet once or twice a month with each group, whether it's a guest speaker, whether it's just trading ideas. So I found those 2 groups and others very valuable in terms of keeping me alive.
That's excellent.
As a writer, yeah.
And I'm sure that the reason that you keep going back is because you have more books in your head that you want to write.
Yes, I do.
As most authors do,
yes,
right?
I do.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the next book you're working on.
Well, actually, just prior, when I talked about the process I used to organize the letters, the next book I want to work on, and it'll be nonfiction again, but won't be really memoir. It'll be sort of how-to, I think.
Oh, good. Okay.
I want to teach others what I learned about organizing family history, organizing the writing that people have. I think you and I both know, I think that writing, as I portray in the book, and I address that a little bit in the book, it's a lost art. The idea of the handwriting, and you put it in an envelope, you address the envelope.
Yes, and put a stamp on it.
You put stamps on it, you mail it, and you wait for the response.
Yeah.
if you get one, and that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Now everything has to be immediate. And when I go back into history and read about the letters that John Adams and his wife's name escapes me, that they wrote back and forth, that was portrayed in the book and also in the play 1776, but how long they had to wait for those letters to come back and forth,
right?
A week or 2 or 3 weeks to get a response, and they'd write back. And
anticipation is sweet, like looking in the mailbox, and
So this next book, I want to make it about the process I use. Not to say there's not other processes. I'm just going to share the process I use and how it worked for me. And I just want to say I've got my outline all set, and just what it taught me, and maybe address a little bit about how people can digitally preserve their letters. I haven't done that myself, but I think in this day and age, it's something I need to include. So it's the book now is this outline, and now I have to start really disciplining myself to write it.
To get down and write, So did you happen to choose a little excerpt to read to us from?
I'm not even that far yet. From this. Let's see. I can get it. Let me have to go.
We always love that.
Let me step away to my shelf here. Okay.
And while you do that, I will share your website. So if anybody wants to learn more about Kevin and his book and his role as a grief navigator and the presentations that he does, and learning more about the process of grief, and because it's different for everyone, this is his website, KevinO'ConnorAuthor.com. And so we'll let him do a little excerpt for you.
I thought I mentioned my father a lot, and since in America, in the United States, Father's Day is this Sunday, I thought maybe I'll just go to a couple things about my dad. And let's see, I'm just opening up randomly. Okay. So I'm going to, the part of the book is similar to 6 Feet Under, and those of us that have watched it, the last episode is how they recount how each of the family members dies. And since that was so much a focus of the story. So one of the sections of the book is called Letting Go, Celebrating Transitions in Our Family. So at the time I wrote the book, 7 of the 10 of us had already passed away. There's just 3 of us left that are from the story. And so I just, as they did in 6 Feet Under, I just mentioned each person by name. And when I go to my dad's section, I'll just read this. In the first week of September, this would be 1984, Dad and Mom made the decision to acquire hospice services at their house. On the evening of September 7th, Gina, that was my wife, and I took my sons, Nick and Mark, to visit Dad and Mom. Dad faded in and out. I laid the boys on either side of him in the bed, and Dad and I talked. He advised in his always practical but now strained, whispered voice. Your condo has been on the market for almost a year. You need to get something bigger. What's happening? Oh, I said we changed realtors. We are now with Cindy. She has done real estate work with friends who have been happy with her. She listed the place today. We will see what happens. Something has to change. Not one person has looked at the place in a year. Yes, we have to do something. So the boys will have a yard to play in, and you and Gina have more room. Those were his last words. I heard from him that night before he drifted away. He died 36 hours later on Sunday, September 9th. My brothers and I assigned each other responsibilities. He had already become, I went to my uncle's house. He had already become adept at maneuvering his wheelchair from room to room. He was dressed in his white short-sleeved shirt, to which I had been accustomed all of my life. I stayed with him for an hour. We conversed, consoled, and comforted each other. Dad's passing put the new owner of the funeral home in the unexpected position of making arrangements for the funeral of the man with whom he was planning a business relationship. The wake started on a Tuesday afternoon. Mom, my brothers, and I took our positions near the casket. A line to form extending from inside to the parking lot and sidewalks in front of our funeral home. Each time I looked up at the line, no end was in sight. A friend of mine has remarked that Dad's wake and funeral were the largest she had ever experienced.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. That's, you know what? It's just, I can't help but assume that being in this type of surroundings really formulated a lot of, your values and personality. What are some of the big things that you could identify as, coming directly from that type of an upbringing?
Just collecting my thoughts. This is not the first time I've been asked this question, but I'll just start by saying some of those values have to do with community. And what I observed or what I recollect. I didn't know I was observing it at the time. At my whatever age I was, from 1 year old up through college. But as I recollect, it was that aspect of community that any business owner needs to have. But in the funeral home business, it's essential. And so my dad and my uncle, and by association, my aunt and my mom, kept very active in the community. And their activity in the community wasn't just to promote the business. Their activity in the community was because that's who they were. I think if Dad and my Uncle Lawrence had been plumbers, they would have done the same thing. Because they were just of that and my mom and my aunt as well. They were people that knew the value of community. So I think, and what was modeled to me and what I observed was the connections that community make. And in the funeral home business, in making those connections, when a family did have that need, then they were familiar with who Mom and Dad and Aunt and Uncle were. One of their slogans was, "It is better to know us and not need us than to need us and not know us."
Right.
I referenced
Because
that in the book.
it's the hardest thing, that happens in your life is, the loss of a loved one. So, a lot of the day-to-day experiences that you would have had, people would have been at their very lowest and sort of saddest. So being surrounded by that sadness, like, how did you make your way through that? Like, would you come away with that sort of
and how I've handled
experience?
that myself in my own life? Okay. I talk about that in the book a little bit too, just in terms of my experiences with the family members who died. I also I talk about when my grandparents had died. I also have a chapter there about in 8th grade, a friend of mine had died very suddenly in an accident, and how Dad sat me down and told me and gave me some ideas about. He didn't know all the circumstances at the time, so he just told me, "This is between us. Don't get on the phone right away and start telling your friends." He said, "Let's wait to see how this plays out." And then, so he coached me, and I guess another value is discretion and respect. And he emulated that not only with me, as did my uncle and my mom and my aunt, but just the things that happened with any particular family was private, was theirs. And the other thing that neither one of them, rarely was in the second and third floor apartments. Rarely was the situation of the family downstairs in the funeral home discussed. It even though that was their work, that was their what they did, that wasn't a conversation that Dad necessarily brought to the dinner table.
Right.
He made that separate, and he wasn't making it separate because he didn't want us to know, or that he didn't want us to be a part of it. Well, then again, it was.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, as children, you do, and
I mean, sometimes a dad will come up, or a mom, or how was your day?
Yeah.
But Dad wasn't one to talk about, oh, you wouldn't believe what this family's going through, or the idea that, whatever their circumstances were, he kept that separate, respecting their family. Yeah. So let's go back to 6 Feet Under. When 6 Feet Under, those of us that have watched it, we always knew that particular family, although you didn't observe a whole lot around the kitchen table, them discussing the client, you were aware of the client's story and that.
Yes.
My experience was we didn't have that. Even though I might help out in the funeral home with putting up the flowers, or holding the door for people, or in my teenage years, oftentimes my dad would have friends of mine and myself, my brothers, be pallbearers. And so we were a part of that. And that was usually for families that for deceased who didn't have families.
Big families.
So but even all of that, Dad would take us aside as the service started and said, you guys might be the only ones at this funeral. This is what we know about the person, but keep this all, this is your time to be discreet, this time to be responsible, and here's what I expect you to do as a pallbearer.
So great life lessons. My goodness, we're already at our time here, Kevin. I can't believe how quickly that went. But I think it's a very captivating memoir. I think it's, people will enjoy it. And one of the readers' favorites said, refreshing to find a read on funerals and death that still strives for happiness and joy.
Right.
And you've taken it and you've expanded it into other work. I would love to hear more about your years in the theater as well, but for now, we'll leave it at that for now. Okay. And for anybody who is interested in learning more, visit KevinO'ConnorAuthor.com, author of 2 Floors Above Grief. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great chat, and hang out backstage for a minute and we'll.
All right. Thanks, Ann. I appreciate the time we had together. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And thank you all for joining us on the author journey today, where we were chatting with Kevin O'Connor and his book, 2 Floors Above Grief, about growing up in a funeral home. It's a great read. I hope you run out and get it. But for now, I'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time on the author journey.